I did want to say one thing. I'd kind of like to dedicate tonight to my father who died on Monday.
Pardon?
I'm dedicating this evening to my father who died on Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. He had a wonderful life, and he was 95 years old. Mm-hmm. He was getting tired. You know, Terry spent a lot of time with him last 5 months of his life, mm-hmm. And he never. He didn't. It wasn't a unexpected death, really. He had no pain or anything, but his heart was just so weak. It had been weak for last 10 years, you know, but it just got weaker and weaker and weaker. And actually, when he went to the doctor 20 years ago, the doctor could not believe that he was in such good shape that he was in, you know, just by, his heart was pumping like 25% at that time, you know, and he didn't seem to affect him at all. And the last time he had that test done, as far as the efficiency of the heart, infraction, yeah, just the efficiency of the heart, basically. It was at like 15%, which is quite low. But yeah, he died on Monday, and so I'd like to dedicate this night to him, this evening to him. If it wasn't for my father, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here for a number of reasons. I wouldn't have been born. Anyway, my father's half of me wouldn't have been born. My mother's half would still be here, maybe, with another half of somebody else. I go on in the rabbit hole on that one. But the idea that the reason I ended up in Arizona is because I was getting tired of the Wisconsin winters. I was living up there for about 20 years, getting tired of it. I liked Wisconsin, but I got tired of it. And then I thought, well, it would be so ideal for me to be down here and spend some time with my father. And then in the winter, he was what we call a snowbird. In the winter, he would go up to South Dakota, where he's originally from, and my brother was up there. So he'd have the best of two worlds. So I decided to come down here where it's warmer and check out Arizona. And I figured I'd be down here. I'd spent about 5 years here, and that was 20 years ago. So I'm still here, and I came down here because of my father. And now that he has passed, I suppose I'll still stay. I don't know. I don't have any plans on moving on. If it wasn't for him, I probably would have moved to Thailand about 12 years ago or something like that. And that I came very close to leaving, you know, Arizona and moving to Thailand and actually retiring. But then I thought that I just didn't want to leave my father behind. And so that's why I'm here, for a number of reasons. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well, if I was in Thailand, I would invite everybody over. You know, we would. Yeah, thanks. A friend of ours brought some little cards here. I'm going to take one, and if somebody wants to pass these out. This is. You're going to have to get up. I'm sorry. But Beverly brought these in, and they're just something that she said she liked. I don't know much about what this thing says. I don't know if you could see it on the line here. I guess you could probably see that. The Buddha aspired to the practice of the 10 great virtues: generosity, morality, renunciation, wisdom, energy, patience, truthfulness, determination, loving kindness, and equanimity. So there's 10, what they're calling them the 10 great virtues here. I know them as the 10 perfections. The 10 perfections are usually, when we look at them, we want to think of, how we live our lives, of course. But we want to, when we contemplate them, we want to look at their opposites, and see how this is true for us, how we live our lives. So the very first one is generosity. And, generosity is one of those virtues that is very important, especially when we look at the idea of renunciation and letting go too. I mean, letting go of material things. So generosity can be materialistic things, but more so we can practice generosity anytime that we meet somebody, anytime that we come upon somebody, just by wishing them loving kindness. I mean, that's it. Generosity is giving. I mean, it's giving a gift. And what would the opposite of generosity be?
Greed.
Greed. Yeah, very much so. Pardon me?
Stinginess.
Stinginess. Yeah, greed, stinginess, being tight rather than being loose in a way. So generosity comes in many different forms to, I guess in the West we think of generosity as somebody giving away a bunch of money, Generosity is something that that comes out a lot this time of year because of the holidays, the Christmas season. We always think of gifts, and if we do it correctly, we do it with an open, loving heart. When we give these gifts, we don't want to give anything with the attitude of, oh, I have to buy Uncle Charlie a gift again this year because he got me that glass horse last year. I don't even like the darn thing. Oh, anyway, the grumpy giver, that you could say, but. Generosity is something that we can practice at every moment that we're with somebody. Just sending a loving thought to somebody. It's anybody. It doesn't have to be somebody we know. And that is a form of generosity that is probably more important than anything, is just actually not even verbally, doesn't even have to be outward verbally sharing generosity, but just being genuinely concerned and generous from the heart, towards somebody. That checkout person, at the store, or that person that cuts us off in traffic, Just find a way to be generous, with our thoughts, The other one, the next one is morality of the 10 virtues, or the 10 perfections. And the opposite of morality, anybody?
Immorality?
Yeah, that's there's a lot of branches of that. We could say if somebody's lying, or if somebody's cheating or stealing, they're not being moral, But if morality is something that is often spoke of in Buddhism, as far as the precepts go, for lay people, and the precepts for ordained people are a little bit different. There's several hundred of them, but for lay people, the rules of morality that the Buddha laid out for us anyway was to refrain from stealing, lying, refrain from intoxicants, and refrain from sexual misconduct, and refrain from taking lives, any lives, humans or animals. And if we can, really concentrate on those particular areas, we can live a pretty moral life, And so that's external and internal. The external area is, what we say and what people kind of pick up from us. And if we steal, that's an external thing. I mean, these are things that people can see. But, from an internal thing, it's just, we can go back to that generosity or other things as far as being moral and how we actually see other people and how we actually think about other people, bring that into our awareness, that to see somebody inside of our mind, think about that dirty little scoundrel or whatever words we might come up with in our minds, to actually be aware of that and send loving thoughts to people. Generosity, a mind and a heart of generosity. Renunciation is another area. We already mentioned that word in conjunction with generosity. But renunciation is kind of another word that the opposite of that, could be considered greed. To renounce something is the opposite of attachment.
Grasping and clinging, right? The opposite.
Grasping
and clinging.
Grasping, clinging, attachment. Yeah, all those things, which are that's a whole another teaching in itself, because they're really a part of the same action of gathering up these things. But yeah, clinging, grasping, attachment is really the opposite of renunciation or renouncing. And in spirituality, we hear people renouncing the world. People going off into that cave in the Himalayan mountains, or any mountains really, into that cave. Or giving up the world and living with the snow leopards, that kind of thing. And oftentimes when people hear that word renunciation, that's the idea that they get. And I hear people say, not so much anymore, but I used to hear it a lot when I was kind of hanging out tightly with a group of people that were trying to find our way into Buddhism and trying to find some answers. We're really seeking. And that word renunciation would come up and people would immediately think, oh, I'm not ready for that. I'm just not ready for that. And in their mind, they were thinking that they had to renounce everything, the house, the car, the children, and to be, this spiritual guru, God type person that would able to renounce all of their possessions, in the name of Buddhism or in the name of Christianity or whatever it might be. But that's not the case. But what we should look out for are the sticky things, the things and these are the things that can cause suffering for ourselves and others. The things that get really, really sticky for us. And these are the attachments, the grasping, the clinging. And so, every one of these is like a teaching in itself, and that can be a big one. So, generosity, morality, renunciation, and then we're getting into the fourth area of the great virtues, 10 perfections, and that is wisdom. And wisdom is the opposite of ignorance. And generally, we're not talking about intellectual wisdom or intellectual ignorance, from an intellectual standpoint. But the wisdom that we're talking about from a spiritual standpoint, in Buddhism anyway, is the understanding of several things, really. One of them is the area of rebirth, and this is something that I've been thinking about quite a bit last couple of days, because, as I mentioned, my father passing on Monday, and my views, my ideas of what happens when a person dies, what happens what is a lifetime? What is a lifetime? When does it start and does it end? And so the wisdom from a spiritual standpoint is understanding this rebirth, or in the Hindu tradition they call it reincarnation. But is this rebirth, and is it real, and what does it mean to us? And I have kind of come to the conclusion in the last several years, maybe last half a decade, I guess, that in order for a person to really have a belief and like a firm understanding of rebirth, they have to have some kind of experience of it, like a glimpse of something from the past, or a glimpse of how a future life might be for them. And otherwise, it's just kind of an intellectual understanding, not an experiential understanding. Experiential understanding is more of an insight, like a stroke of clarity, you know, where actually somebody has a past life regression, where they come back with this conceptual, and it has to be conceptual because there's no tangible truth that comes back from that, but this conceptual idea that there is a past life. And of course, if there's a past life, there's some kind of a future life, whether it's in this bodily form or ethereal kind of life. And so that type of wisdom is, being open to that. And it's also, this wisdom has a lot to do with letting go. And letting go has a lot to do with rebirth. And it has a lot to do with our quality of life now too. To be able to let go. And we could put renunciation in there too. But primarily letting go is understanding what is holding us back from being complete in life. And this letting go is really being able to understand our feelings from a really, like a deep level. And we can start with the sensations in the body. Like if we think of something negative from the past, for example, and it creates a sensation in the body, what are we to be able to let go of? And if we dig into that and look into that with wisdom, we'll find that it is the resistance to the fact that we are having trouble letting go of that. And it's kind of it's really difficult to explain in a real clean, methodical fashion. But if we have difficulty letting go with something, if we have difficulty with a certain feeling, like a memory that brings up a feeling, if we have difficulty with that, it's because we have a resistance to let go. And usually that resistance stems from the idea that we're going to lose some type of our identity from this letting go. That we're going to lose control, and that control is usually pointing out that there's an identity that we might not be able to give up without that letting go. So thank you. The next area of 10 perfections is energy. And of course the opposite of energy is one of the hindrances that we can have in meditation, especially if we're new to meditation. That's sloth and torpor, the hindrance of drowsiness or even boredom. But energy can be a physical energy that is really pretty neat to have when we're spiritual seekers, and we want to have this practices actually, and one primary one being meditation. But that energy could be physical, but it could be mental as well, and that means like a clarity of mind. So we really want to keep that in mind when it comes to our daily living. We want to eat the right food, get the right amount of sleep, and if we're not sleeping well, that means we should be meditating more, and just keeping active, physically and mentally active, producing energy and extending energy equally. Patience. I think patience is really key. I'll say it again, to be complete in life, to have patience, as opposed to, what's the opposite of patience?
Impatience.
Impatience? What's another one?
Restlessness.
Yeah? Restlessness works. I'm sorry?
Rushing.
Rushing? Rushing around? Yeah, when we think of patience, we think of somebody being patient. They're just they're chilled. They're sitting in meditation or something like that. Somebody not patient is fidgeting, restless, worrying maybe. There's another word I'm looking for, but it'll come to me. But to have patience is checking in. For a lot of people, it's checking in anyway, and asking ourselves, why am I apprehensive, for such and such or so and so? Why do I have this impatience about the situation that is causing, this fear for me at this time? Patience also has a lot to do with meditation from the standpoint of being patient with ourselves. Because a lot of times when we start a meditation practice, we want changes pretty quick. Not only with meditation, but other things too. If we become a spiritual seeker, for example, we want to find those answers now, for the most part anyway. But in order for us to really be kind to ourselves, we have to find that patience and be patient with ourselves. It's kind of like loving kindness, where we start with ourselves and then we spread it out. And patience is the same way. We have to be patient with this stuff, and then once that is realized and worked with and found, then we can practice that patience anywhere in our life. The next one is truthfulness, and we kind of touched on that with the 5 precepts. Opposite of truthfulness, of course, is untruthfulness. What's lying? And there can be all sorts of lies, but we have to be truthful with ourselves again, just like patience, and just like loving kindness. But to refrain from lying is not only refraining from the words that come out, which is very, very big, but also, with the lies that we tell ourselves, and the lies of the body too. We can sometimes pretend that we are somebody we're not, and there are certain instances where we want to, it doesn't hurt to fake it until we make it, that kind of thing. But I guess the lying that I'm talking about is, extending a helpful hand for somebody when there's a different intention behind it. These kinds of things. Feeling like we have to help somebody, not because we want to, but just because we somehow owe it to a person. These, like I said, there's more ways to be truthful than just the words that come out, but by the actions as well. Another area is determination. Determination is, like it's a straightforwardness. It's a stick-to-itiveness. I like that word, stick-to-itiveness, and I use that. But determination is kind of setting our sights on something and going for it. And a lot of times when you hear about people waking up, they're going through this journey of awakening. This isn't true for everybody, but for a lot of people it is, where they say that one of the things that contributed to their awakening is their determination to become so, to become an awakened being. their drive. They knew what they wanted, and they just didn't give up. They just kept going for it. And determination, we can have determination in our meditation practice as well, and that can be very important when it comes down to being consistent, with our practice. And it's not difficult. Determination doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be. Oh, that's. Oh, okay. That's first. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. We have a mystery. But determination can be very, very important in our meditation practice, to practice every day, to be consistent. Determination really helps in that area. Loving kindness, I think we did some loving kindness here a couple of weeks ago, I thought. We did a loving kindness practice. I think we talked about it. Opposite of loving kindness is hatred. Another hindrance that can really be damaging to our peace of mind and our hope to have a life where we feel very complete and live a complete life. Loving kindness is love. It's unconditional love. It's also very important to kind of mix that with patience. As I said before, patience starts with ourselves. Loving kindness starts with ourselves too. We have to love ourselves first, and then we realize the quality of love, what it really means to us, what it's really all about. This love is really this oneness that we hear people talk about, our connection with everyone and everything. Not on a superficial level, but on a heartfelt level, where we actually feel that connection. And that is usually, that word that comes up is and loving kindness is a practice. We can do it in a meditation practice. There's so different ways to do it. At the end of this Wednesday night practice, I usually do a short metta or loving kindness practice. That is a kind of traditional. And there's other ways to practice it as well. And we'll do that again in here, I'm sure. And then the last area of the 10 virtues or 10 perfections is equanimity. And we always find equanimity to be last, because equanimity is huge. It keeps us from realizing that we have work to do until we actually rest in this area of equanimity. And we can all experience equanimity. We experience it in the present moment when we're resting in presence. Anytime that we feel that there is a pull this way or that way, it is the mind that is taking us out of this presence. We're going into the past or the future. And it's possible to really be in, have the heart and mind of being in equanimity while we're in the past and while we're in the future, as long as we know and recognize that as being, that we are using the mental activity to place ourselves and use the past or use the future. And equanimity, so it can be looked at as being in this present moment, refraining from the past or the future, and being in this place, like the whiteness, the creamy stuff in the Oreo cookie. That could be looked at as equanimity. On a deeper level, equanimity is the understanding that we are no different than anybody else. That even though we might we feel as if we have this heart of compassion and heart of love, understanding, and we wish to share that with everyone, that is us sharing that equanimity, but from a standpoint of we're not any greater than anybody else because we feel this. We want to share it, and we know it's possible for everybody to have that. That is an example of being equanimous with everybody and everything. Finding that oneness. Not finding it, but actually just resting in it. If I hate to use the word finding, or difficult to use the word finding, because it really kind of gives the idea that we're looking and seeking and that we're not at peace. But having a heart and mind of equanimity is peacefulness in the moment. It's being very present. So thank you for bringing these in. That's very nice. So again, I would like to dedicate this evening and this meditation to my father, who passed away on Monday, and I'll kind of guide us through in respect to how life should look for us, and maybe a little bit about death from a happy standpoint, from a glad standpoint. So please make yourself comfortable. Close the eyes. Just take a moment and check in with the body. See how you feel. If this is your first time meditating today, you might notice a few things. And see if you can relax the body just by breathing through any areas that might have any stiffness. Any areas that might have any kind of tension in it, lower back or the shoulders. Any area that you feel within the body that could actually feel better, just bring your attention to it and just kind of wish a little loving kindness to that area. I like to use the breath when I'm relaxing the body, just to bring that into the play of relaxation, because I think it's valuable tool to actually visualize that you can exhale this nice healing, cooling breath into any area of the body that you choose. If you could have a superpower, I think a lot of people would choose the ability to heal. And actually, this isn't a superpower. This is something that we have the ability to do. We can heal ourselves and we can heal other people. But meditation is a practice of going within, so that if there's any discomfort or anything that you feel needs healing, just wish that this healing quality and this loving kindness to that area of the body. And even the entire body, if you wish. What needs healing? What needs relaxation? So we go through life, and in most situations, if we remind ourselves that if we're healthy, we're doing pretty well. If we are living a pain-free life, we're doing pretty good. Even if there's a little pain from time to time, we can get by with it. Even if there's a little discomfort, that's not so bad. And so, like I said, sometimes we have to remind ourselves how fortunate we are. If we can sit in meditation and actually find the time to meditate, and notice that we're okay in this moment, the body's not giving us too much trouble, we can find some comfort and some relaxation and actually come to a point in our practice where the body is really no big deal. It's not an obstacle for us. It's not a distraction for us. So we kind of leave the body behind. This doesn't always happen, but it can happen. We're giving ourselves permission to relax the body and actually let it fade into the background. Just go ahead and try that. The only thing that you might not want to let fade into the background is some aspect of the breath that you might be using for your meditation object. This is a tool that we choose to bring our attention to. And as meditators, we know this. If the mind wanders off, we remind ourselves that we're meditating and we bring our attention back to the breath, some area of the breath. Tip of the nose, the throat, the windpipe, the upper lip, the movement of the abdomen, any of these areas. Visualization of the breath, the warmth or the coolness of the breath. The sensation, the feeling, the movement, any of these things can be considered a meditation object. And then as we meditate on this, if we're used to this practice, the body, as I said, kind of takes a back seat. It can be set into the background. Then we're contending with the mind. And the mind is something that we can condition. It can be very, very active. It can be darn right distracting for us. Sometimes we wish that we could turn it off completely. But we have to be patient. We have to allow the mind to settle down when we're practicing meditation, just like we did with the body. Just let everything settle down. We want the thoughts to be as still as possible. Just imagine a meditation practice where there is no body. And there's no ego, so there is no one. There's no thoughts, there's no mind, no activity of the mind or body. And when we really have a nice meditation, oftentimes this is seemingly what happens. The body's not interfering with us. The mind's not interfering with us. We're not concerned about the past or the future. time really doesn't have much meaning. And we have this feeling of being free, feeling of being complete. And sometimes all we have to do is give ourselves permission to experience this. Why not? Why are we so hard on ourselves? Just give ourselves permission to set aside the body, set aside the mind. Just rest in this peacefulness, this presence. So we imagine that we have set the body aside, we've set the mind aside. No agitation, no distraction. Sometimes we don't have to imagine that. And how far is this from our idea of death or dying? To be free from the burden of the body, to not be bothered by the discursive mind, no negativity. No confinements of time. Peacefulness. The ability to express ourselves if we wish, but no need to do so. The ability to have emotions, but no need to express them at this time. And so can we say that the meditation practice that we do is us trying to, in a way, come closer to this idea of our death. Which really brings about a new kind of aliveness for us. Knowing that there's something else out there beyond the material world and materialistic ideas. Much easier to live in the inner world sometimes than the outer world. Now slowly bring your attention back to the breath if it's not there already. And notice where your awareness came from. Where was it? And where is it now? And check in with the body. How does the body feel now after sitting for 30, 40 minutes? And were you able to leave the body behind? Were you able to put it in the background? Not forcefully, but just allowing it to be okay. And so we ask, how would it feel to have the mind and the body to be absent for a while? And so this witness that is watching this can kind of get a break from it all. And how close is that to our actual death? And is this death the death of the body only, or is it a death of the mind as we know it? Death of our memories? And so what is life? Is life memories? Is it mind? Is it experiencing the body? So let's put our hands together in front of our hearts, if you like. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. And may we have the patience, the courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or any difficulties that we might face in life. Thank you. Very quiet tonight. No racing cars in the streets or anything. So, if you're listening, I know some of you, we do guided meditations, and you don't listen to the guiding too much, but some of you do probably. And so, with the meditation that we just did, I invited you, most of you know this, but I invited you to leave the body alone, to kind of allow it to go into the background. And no body, and then no one, no mind, no, what does no mind mean? No thoughts, no past, no future, no memory, no emotions. no feelings. And when we do that, it's like we're having, I mean, if that happens, we can't help but say that it feels like it's going to be a good meditation, or that it is a pretty good meditation, you know, without the human aspect of getting in there, you know. Meditation is a practice of going within, but going within what? You know, it's not really going into the body and experiencing every fine nuance of the body. I mean, it could be, but not for the most part. We go within, more of a going within the heart, you know. That's the way I look at it anyway. And we understand ourselves at this deeper level, we could say, because the thoughts, you know, the typical everyday thinking process hopefully slows down, and we get some rest from that. We get a breather from that. And the result is that we become more sensitive to what life really is. I feel, and that's the way I feel, you know, within. But and what does life really feel like? You know, what is, let's say, what is the richness of life without having to deal with the body and not have to worry about what happened in the past or what's coming up in the future? You know, this kind of freedom of mind that we find in the present moment. What would the richness of life be from that? You know, we might think that it would be some kind of a joy or something, but we know from studying deep states of concentration that joy, you know, that laughter is so energetic that we can't sustain it, and it's not even comfortable after a while if we try to sustain it. So this joy, or this, it's more like a peacefulness, you know, that we're experiencing, that we're actually looking for probably in our meditation. And I call it peace of mind in daily living, but peace of mind now, you know, that feeling of being complete. And so it's not coming from the body, it's not coming from the mind, but there's aspect of us that is experiencing this. You know, it's like being the witness, being the one that is the witness of the body not being there, being the one that is the witness of the mind not interfering with the meditation practice, us witnessing, being the one that is witnessing this peace of mind. And what is that? And the question is, does that die? You know, that's what we're talking about in meditation. So in many ways, meditation is us not burying our heads in the sand like an ostrich, but us kind of dying and being reborn in the moment. You know, we're not experiencing the body like we normally would if we're exercising or doing whatever, and we're not experiencing the mind like we would if we're being very creative and trying to create these things, which are all joyful, you know, experiences. They're fun, you know. But the real joy is to being able to sit in peace and experience that for ourselves. And if we can do that in meditation, then ideally we can turn that switch on whenever we want and experience that in everyday life, everyday living, you know. But who's experiencing that? That's the key question. Who is the witness? What is the witness? And my belief about life, and the reason I'm talking about this is because I'm dedicating this evening to, you know, the passing of my father. But my belief in life is that we we're born, I mean, we come into this existence with this body that we're using at this time. This is very much like a coat. When we're done with this coat, just like any other old coat, we take it off and get a new one, so to speak. It's not quite that simple, though. But I feel that as far as the mind goes, that we're brought into this existence again and again and again to learn the lessons of life. And what does that mean? The lessons are many, many things that the things that we have to get. And we went through the 10 perfections here. Are we living this? Are we living the 10 perfections, the 10 virtues, moment to moment, to day by day, year after year? Probably not. But every lesson that we learn is helping us move closer to, living this life easily, and not trying to live a moral and peaceful and happy life, but just doing it from the aspect of getting these lessons, and the lessons of we have this negativity that comes up for us. There's something to be learned from it. There's something to be learned in every activity that we have. And when we get all these lessons, when we understand all this, that's when we stop having this kind of existence that we're experiencing now. That's we start waking up. Full enlightenment is not having the karma, which is these lessons that are learned. Every time we learn these lessons, it eliminates this negative karma, and there's no reason to come back into this existence to extend that karma. So no karma, no rebirth. I should say no negative karma, no rebirth. That's my conceptual look at life and what life is all about, and how it begins and how it ends, basically. I don't see anything with a beginning or an end, like a life. Like we are born, but when do we start being born? When does the creation of this start? It doesn't start when we come out of the womb, because it started within our mother's body. And we have to say that there was energy and life before that. The egg and the sperm was there before they came together to create this. But before that, going back in time, there's still that sperm and that egg. That is us. It just happens to be separated at that time. So when does life really start? When the sperm lives? When the egg is alive? Or when these two come together? Some people would say that's when life starts. But think of all the opportunities that doesn't spark, that doesn't happen, and there's no life. That doesn't seem right either. And death is even more interesting as far as when do we die? We stop breathing, our organs shut down. Body is still warm for the most part, especially the head stays warm for quite a while. But then somebody comes in, a nurse comes in and says, or a doctor comes in and says, that's the end of this person's life. But yet, there's still things happening there. The fingernails and the hair are still growing, actually. That doesn't stop. Not then. So there's still life happening. It might be like an old coat. The body, they should say, well, looks like this body is done. We can say that this person used up this body instead of calling it a death. And then what goes on after that? And it's all concepts. You know, there are. I'm not an authority on life and death, that's for sure. You know, I wouldn't want to be, I guess. But the idea of life and death, everybody has different ideas, different views of it. But I don't see, in my mind, I don't see a beginning or end of this. And I don't really see a beginning or end of anything, you know, just a change. You know, Buddha said that everything is impermanent, and it sure is. Everything is constantly changing. The body is constantly changing. Life starts, people think life starts here and it goes like this, and then it goes down like that. But actually it starts here and it goes down to a certain degree. But there's no real peaks or valleys, you know, in this thing that we call life. Just the definition of life alone is very tricky. You know, what is life? You have to Google that one to get an answer, you know. When just any comments from anybody? When you meditate, does the body fall into the background for you? For the most part, I see one head going up and down. Is that true? Is that true for you?
It takes me a little bit.
Takes a while? Yeah?
It happens, but it definitely takes
Yeah.
a good, you know,
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes.
How about, yeah, like in a retreat, we can really notice those things too. You know, when we actually kind of conditioning the body and the mind for a period of time, that we can kind of become more sensitive to the whole thing. How about the mind? Does the mind change? Do your thoughts change? Do they settle down? You know, everything kind of simmer down after a while?
I think they do.
Yeah. How about you, Mark? When you're not thinking of the Pali and stuff like that, how does your mind settle down?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I usually have, you know, a good 5 minutes or so where I'm really calm and then go back to thinking. And it's
Yeah.
kind of off and on.
Yeah. That happens. Yeah.
It depends on the meditation.
It depends on a lot of
Depends
things.
on-
Yeah. A lot of factors involved. Yeah. Even what you ate before and stuff. That's why, like, jhana, you know, the practice of concentration, like if you come to that point where you feel as if you went through jhana, into one of the jhanas, like first jhana or something, where there's no hindrances, you know, and you can feel like you can really control that deep concentration. And if that happens, you want to do everything exactly the same way you did it before, so that you can get into that until you really feel very comfortable at doing that. And there could be so many factors that allow the mind and the body to get at that state of deep concentration. Not that that's necessarily ideal for everybody, but that is a lot of times kind of a factor in whether our meditation is working well for us. Though, the thing about meditation, when we want to know whether our meditation is working, it's just depending on whether we're happier or not in our daily lives. Not necessarily in our meditation. If we're happier in daily lives, then our practice is working for us. And that's why we want to do it every day, to be consistent. Because otherwise it's kind of hard to determine whether that's actually working for us.